Welcome back to the Athlete Hackers Podcast. My name is Chris Schrade.
And I am Mark Spellman. Thank you for joining us today. We have an incredible guest with us today, Coach Ashleigh Beaver, currently the assistant strength and conditioning coach at the University of Alabama, overseeing women's basketball.
Associate, but it's okay.
Okay, no. Hey, as you know, in this business, titles matter.
Titles matter.
We'll go with
things, yeah.
We will go with associate director. I'll even give you a director title. So associate director of strength and conditioning, overseeing women's basketball, and
just women's basketball.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so women's basketball. We'll get on the subject of titles here eventually. Ashleigh, for those that are listening, please give us a rundown of your career and where you've been and what you've done, and all those fun things in between.
Yeah. I played soccer my whole life. And so when I went to college, I went to college to play soccer. And in doing so, I had a really good relationship with my athletic trainer. And I told him I had a bunch of issues with my feet as a soccer player. And I said, I love what you do. And I love that you're around us. And how can I get into this? But I don't want to touch feet. That is not my jam. And he kind of pointed me in the direction of physical therapy, but it was also still before the time where there was this big push to have physical therapists with university sports. Obviously physical therapy was a thing, but in schools, maybe a few bigger schools, they had PTs, but not most universities didn't have this. It wasn't popular. So in doing so, in my undergrad, I was going for rehabilitation sciences, and I was interning at our local hospital every weekend. And it was I had a great time, but by the end of it, I could basically run some of the programs by myself if they were overbooked, and not because I was qualified, but it was just kind of the same over and over. And I was like, man, I think it's great to help people sit up and stand up and be able to do daily life. But I really want to I want to push, and I want to see differences and get people back to playing sport. And that was where my heart really was. And it was just on a whim that when I graduated with my undergrad, one of my girlfriends was like, hey, I'm going to be in Vegas this week. I'm going with my boyfriend, but he has to be with his business partner. They're at a conference. Let's do a vacation and celebrate you graduating. And I get out there, and the conference happened to be the National Strength and Conditioning Conference that's out in Vegas with the NSCA. And So one of the days I was just like, dude, can I walk around here? I don't even know what this is. We didn't have a strength and conditioning coach. And I walked around, I entered my name in for a raffle to get the book and be signed up for class. And it was kind of all in after that. And I met Bewley at this conference, and his athletic director at the time. And I emailed both of them the week after I left and said, I have zero problems moving to Ohio and getting my own place and working for free, but I'd love to intern for you and kind of see what this is. And it's something I think I'm really interested in, but I have no clue about. Is that something you're interested in? And he got back to me within the week and said, yeah, sure, come on up. It's going to be my first time having an intern, and clearly your first time as well. So it'll be a learning process, but let's do it. And all the coaching staffs were on board. That he was working with men's and women's basketball at Dayton and men's and women's golf. And we kind of just tag teamed everything. And yeah, I came back to Savannah and finished my master's in sports medicine, but with a strength and conditioning focus. And then from there, I did one more internship. I went up to Duke University and was working on the Olympic side for about a year, and got to experience 17 different teams, which I think is wonderful, because then it just kind of took me out of just being golf and basketball and made me, open my eyes to all of these other sports and ways of programming around different teams and whatnot, and learning how to do needs analysis and all of those things. And from there, I took a job at West Point, and I was working with 4 main teams. And then we were in a separate satellite weight room. So myself and my coworker at the time, Kenny, we kind of tag teamed on his 4 to 6 other teams. So at any time it was just nuts. It was anywhere between 3 teams in that weight room and 7, and everybody got in and got out between 3 and 7 p.m. So that was an adventure. And about 2.5 years in, I got a phone call from Coach Will Stevens, who is the men's, and at the time was the men's and women's strength and conditioning coach at Duke, and said, we're opening a position. The women need their own person. I would love for you to apply. And so in 2016, I came down and applied and got the job. And I was there just with women's basketball. And then I would assist Coach Will with men's basketball from 2016 to 2021. And then here we are. I'm down at the University of Alabama. Coach Curry called and said, I don't know why, but your name keeps coming up, and how do I get you here? And Coach Ballou has been absolutely wonderful and welcoming. And he's like, anything you need, let's do it, figure it out. And so, here I am down in Tuscaloosa.
Coach, awesome. I got to tell you, I didn't have a strength and conditioning coach when I was in college either. And I'm paying for it now.
Oh, yeah. I
mean, college athletes need you guys.
We were just told, like, hey, if you can get into the fitness center, get into the fitness center. And you just like don't realize what a difference it makes when like you actually have a plan.
Yeah. And guys are Neanderthals and do stupid things. So there's the other part of that.
Well, a lot of times when women don't have direction in the gym, it's just like to get in there and have a cute outfit. So I get it. I was one of those people too. It's fine.
I think a couple things that you touched on. One, follow your heart and your passion. And the sooner you can understand it and find it, the better. Second, find good people to work with and work under. I mean, your coaching tree from Coach Bewley, who's now the, what's the title? Executive Director for Learning at Play.
Right. He's the director of Play Academy.
Okay.
And but yes, I think there's like 7 other titles in there. So I hope that he doesn't yell at me for not knowing all of them. But that was just amazing to kind of come in and be under somebody who, I mean, this man started his own protein product line, recovery line. He has multiple I want to call them side hustles, but I mean, they're part of our world. Yeah. They're how to do assessments through warmups. And then was doing all kinds of tools for if you didn't have, oh my gosh, I remember filming upon filming. If you didn't have money for equipment and you wanted to do slide board stuff, we were making videos on how you could make it from, Home Depot and do it for your team. And these are exercises that you can do. I mean, all kinds of things. So and now he's out of strength and conditioning in the collegiate setting, but he's not out of strength and conditioning. Now he's, the head of education for Play. And he's also running that Play Academy, which they're going to be building a new facility. They're going to be running a lot of strength and conditioning conferences out of and hands-on workshops. And wow, what an amazing person to be under. And then Coach Swanson, that's up at West Point. I mean, dear Lord, that man has been there for 25 plus years. His coaching tree underneath him is absolutely ridiculous.
And the fact that his son's name is Thor is phenomenal.
Oh, I know. We've had that conversation so many times. Hey, Ash, can you babysit Thor? And I'm like, yeah, I can. And Thor was the nicest kid. And man, I mean, he's going to be, that's at least good. He's at least super duper athletic, and he's going to make a name for himself. And I guess you kind of have to with a name like Thor, but he's crushing it in the lacrosse world. So he's doing well. And then the next person is Coach Will. And I mean, Coach Will has been with men's and women's basketball for the last 25 years. And he's been with Coach K since that time. I mean, you have 5, national titles under your belt, and this man is the most humble man you could ever imagine. And he stays under the radar, and he is adamant, don't put my stuff out there, not because his stuff isn't good, but because he's like, this is what we do. And I want to keep it to be what we do. And like, a lot of people will see him on the sidelines and be like, who is that? No, really, you should be like, I know who that is. I mean, just phenomenal man, and like best person I could have worked in such like I don't know, like they're so high profile, at times that like it was so great to have somebody who was just so warm and welcoming, and he's absolutely amazing, the nicest person ever.
Well, and going back to for a lot of the young strength coaches to understand this, that I mean, you busted your ass to get where you're at, but at the same time, when the opportunity rose for you to take other opportunities, you jumped on them. I mean, it wasn't like you were humming and hawing. Should I go? Should I? You went. You. I would assume the internship at Dayton was non-paid.
Oh yeah, the internship at Dayton was not paid. I bartended at night.
Yep. So when I first got into this, I did an internship with the Buccaneers, and it was 40 to 60 hours non-paid, and then I worked another 40 hours one part-time at the Y, and then I bartended Friday and Saturday night, or actually I bounced. Figure that a strength coach working as a bouncer at a bar Fridays and Saturdays nights down in Ybor City. So I don't want to paint a glamorous picture of where you've gotten to and how you've gotten there, because you've busted your ass to get there. But at the same time, for young coaches to understand that, like, you have to make these opportunities happen for yourself. I mean, you're on vacation in Vegas, just graduated college, probably a lot of other things you could have been doing besides walking around a convention center.
In Vegas, yeah, I think so.
A lot of distractions there.
But
yes,
if all those things don't happen, you're not in Tuscaloosa.
Right.
And I think, it's one of those things that, it's what luck is when opportunity meets preparation.
It's been a lot. It's been a lot of both, because I can look at my tree and where I started and where I got to, and I also realize that there are a ton of people that have more coaching experience or more internships under their belt that aren't where I am, and I understand that. At the same time, yes, like what you were saying. So not even just Dayton. When I took the internship at Duke the first year on the Olympic side, one of my best girlfriends in the world was already there 6 months ahead. And so we had like a 6-month crossover. And I've known her since I was like 10. So no idea how we both got into the same profession, but here we are. And so we had a 6-month overlap, and she had a studio apartment. Now, this thing was tiny, right? We were both unpaid interns. I slept on the couch for 6 months. She slept in a bed for 6 months. We had no wall between us. The kitchen was right next to the bed, the tiniest bathroom. And I mean, we went in, our first group was at 6. We had to be in by 5:45. I would get off at 4 p.m. And then 4 days a week, I would come home, change or shower, change, go to the bar, and I would work at the bar from 5 o'clock until, thank God, on Mondays, it closed at 10. But Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and it doesn't close until 2 a.m. And then you have to count money, and you have to clean, and you do all those things, and then you're back at work at 5:45. So was it the easiest thing to do? Like, absolutely not. But is it something that I wanted to do? Yes, it was. And like, I think that whole, if you want it enough, you will work for it, is so true. And that, I mean, like, that's as silly enough as push-ups. Like, I could be terrible at push-ups, but if I did even 2 push-ups every day and then slowly started increasing those push-ups, I'm going to be better at push-ups. But I have to want it, because if I don't want it, that seems silly to me.
And okay, so and Chris, hop in whenever you want. I totally understand where you get and what you've said, because when I was going back to Tampa, I was sleeping on the floor, and I was getting maybe 3-4 hours of sleep a night, and but there was 200 applicants for 3 jobs for 3 non-paid internships. And I think what happens with a lot of the young strength coaches coming up, they think, they've done an internship, they've gotten a GA, maybe they've gone from a GA to an assistant, and now they're like, well, I should be running the shop now. And it's like, should you? I mean, sorry about my voice cracking there, but you know, sorry about going Peter Brady on everybody. Um, but it's you know, it's like be careful what you wish for, because as you've seen at the different places that you've been, you know, whether it's Coach Swanson, Coach Bewley, Coach Will, or where you're currently at with is it Doctor
Well, Coach
Coach
Baloo
Blue?
and Dr. Ray.
Yeah. So I mean, and you see how they work. I mean, but they're overseeing a whole multi-million-dollar program.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not football. It's football and everybody else. It's, you know, it's making sure that they have the right people in the right spots so that they can be as successful as possible. So, you know, I don't know where I was going with that, but you know, it's just one of
Well,
those.
I mean, I think part of what you were saying is yes, like I would even say to the interns today, because there's a lot of places that are no longer doing unpaid internships because it looks bad on the university and whatnot. So they're at least paying for you to get your certifications. Go ahead and do it. You're still working for free, and I understand that. But those certifications are five to thousands of dollars. Excuse me, $500 to $1,000 plus your flight, plus any of those things that you need. Go ahead and do that, because even if you want to get into the profession, you need those things to be marketable. You need those things for people to hire you. So go ahead and do that. And the thing that, like, I'm still not a proponent or somebody that's going to sit here and profess that we need to like embrace the grind. Like, clearly I've been there. No, if that is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying you could do a free internship for 70 hours a week and then also bartend because that's what I did. I'm not saying that. But you need to put in your time, and you need to understand that if you're there 5 hours a day, be present for 5 hours of the day. And then after that, go home. Don't just sit there and sit around. Like, go home, get what you need to get done. If you aren't making money at this unpaid internship, then yes, go get another job. Make ends meet. But don't expect that it's going to be handed to you just because you're, I don't know, at Baylor doing a football internship and wow, you did a good job for 6 months. Like, you still have to put in the work.
And I think you were on it with the high performance basketball symposium where Todd Wright, who's now the president of performance with the LA Clippers, he took his first job with Texas and Coach Barnes, and he basically said, "I'll do this job, but you're going to pay for any certification I want to get." And I looked up the certification that he has through Gray Institute, and it's like $10,000.
Yeah.
For
like, if you want someone to specialize, understand that your specialization courses are not $500.
oh no, but it's also, you know, it's one of those things that will definitely separate you. But I mean, there are not too many strength coaches going around with 10 grand in their pocket to go get certified.
No.
We use it on silly things like eating and paying bills.
Mostly eating.
Just
all
to
right.
chime in, you're listening to Mark, and we've had a lot of other strength coaches on here in regards to, you know, newbies coming in. There's a lot more to what you guys do than just a textbook, including learning how to work with other people, the administrators and the athletes. And that's something you can't really teach in a textbook, and it takes an experience longer than 6 years, probably longer than a year or two. You've got to have years in and day out, really interacting with other people to get a feel for that and that experience.
I would agree. And I think if you're a new person coming in and you're in a good internship program, those people that are in charge of you are kind of taking you under their wing. And I'm not saying taking you to everything, but giving you an opportunity that at times when they know it's not going to be like a super serious meeting with those head coaches, to bring you in along with them and to see how they interact with head coaches, to bring you into other meetings to see how they interact with their athletic trainer, or any kind of administration person. When I was at Duke, they did a very good job of, okay, they were starting this kind of leadership course. Administration was starting a leadership course for new employees and whatnot. They made all of us as interns go. which was a great opportunity, not only for us to kind of learn leadership skills or leadership skills in athletics and like how that goes on, but it also gave us an opportunity to put our faces in front of admin, sport coaches that were coming in to talk to the courses, and kind of people you wouldn't see from, yes, they're in the athletic department, but like in spaces you wouldn't normally be as an intern, and kind of get yourself out there a little bit. So when those opportunities arise, I think it's like super important, even though it sounds maybe silly or something that you don't want to do, that's a great opportunity to A, learn, but B, network and be visible to people, because the more people see you, the more they're like, oh, she's supposed to be here. And then that opens up lines of communication. But then once you get out of that intern position, I think something that was really important to me that I talked to Coach Will about was I wanted to make sure that I had other administrative duties. So I was learning how, if I was to leave or I was to get promoted, I knew how to handle those things. And so again, some of those things are as just simple as, okay, well, I took over the budget for all of sports performance, but which also was helping me learn how to budget. And budget for a department and things that are important to spend the money on. But it also opened me up to go and meet this administrator who's over the entire athletic department and just over money, who I normally wouldn't be in day-to-day communication with. And I'm in his office having budget meetings, like very important budget meetings every single year.
Duke basketball has no budget. Stop it.
I said sports performance budget over sports performance, not over basketball. But you're right. They don't, I mean, they have a little bit of a budget, but yeah, they don't get told no that often.
No, that word doesn't get told to Coach K that often. All right, so basketball and golf at Dayton, multiple sports at West Point, men and women's basketball at Duke, women's basketball at Alabama. In all those different situations, how do you go in and how do you start day one?
Oof.
Ha
I'll tell you that day one here.
I saw you with yoga and I saw you with spinning at Tuscaloosa. So
yes, well, I'll at least tell you about day one here. So day one, when our women came back, they actually had like orientation for the school. So the first thing that we did was had a team meeting. And in our team meeting, basically every single person spoke. So the head coach spoke, and then our academic person, our athletic trainer, our nutrition person, and then they saved me for last. And I can tell you that I scared them poopless. I would use other words. I mean, they were oh,
you can.
I mean, by the end of it, anything I said, yes, ma'am. And it wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't what I had to explain to them 3 days later, because I was realizing that they were kind of like nervous around me, was I have to tell you what my expectations are, and I have to tell you what my standards are before we get into this and something happens. And then you just think I'm being mean or punishing you or holding you accountable for something you didn't know I was holding you accountable for. So on day one, here is my list of expectations. Here are the things that I am accountable to you for, but here are also the things you are accountable to me for. To include being on time, being where you need to be when you need to be there. And I'm going to be the one holding you accountable for that. So let me let you know in advance that when you don't show up on time the first time, we'll have an accountability activity for every minute that you're late. But when you, the same person, don't show up the second time and you're late, the whole team is meeting me at 5:30 in the morning for an accountability activity. And if and when it happens a third time, which it shouldn't, the entire team is going to meet me for an entire week at 5:30 in the morning, and I will adjust my weight room time to work on accountability with our group, because it doesn't work if you don't also hold yourselves accountable. I can't be the only one holding you accountable. Your coaches can't be the only ones holding you accountable. At some point, whether it's top or bottom, there has to be accountability across the board. And they were very, very nervous. But then after that, I'm like, listen, I'm a real life person. I want to have fun in here too. one of them was like, I'm sorry, I'm smiling. I just smile a lot. I was like, you can smile. I know I have RBF and like that kind of looks scary, but 90% of the time I'm in a great mood. And
I
I
was
want you
trying
to
to understand what RBF was, but I got it.
my resting bitch face. And
Urban
it just
Dictionary is a
like,
good place for those terms.
yes. And it's just one of the, I want you to have a good time. I want you to be smiling that you're in the weight room. My God, if I can get a group of 15 women excited to be in the weight room and excited to bench and excited to squat or deadlift or pull-ups, I have done a phenomenal job, regardless of wins and losses. That's a huge win in my corner. But I still need you to know that we're going to have fun and we're going to do a good job, but we are going to have standards and we're going to have, you know, values that we as a team hold important. And we're going to, if I let you leave here with zero accountability or anything, you are going to fail so hard when you get to the real world.
Yep.
Your job is not going to let you be late 8 times and be like, it's okay, sweetie. You're going to be fired.
Now coming back to that, and this is going to be, it might come off the wrong way. Do you think the players would have had the same response if you were a man? And I'm saying the same standards, same everything, and probably even presented the same way. Do you think they would have had the same oh shit feeling, or do you think they would have been like, all right, I mean, because I don't know, was there somebody in your spot before you, or is this a whole new position?
There was someone in my spot before me, and I'll tell you like kind of how it went. When Coach Cochran was here with football, there was only an intern that did women's basketball. So each year, women's basketball got a new person.
Oh dear God.
Uh-huh. I was like, oh, okay. Okay.
You might have a senior who's had 4 different training methodologies.
Yes.
Awesome.
And so when the coaching change happened last year with Coach Blue coming down and taking over, there was a person, Coach Jones, who had played football at Alabama, was on the strength staff at Alabama, and was getting close to retirement. So what they did was they moved him to women's basketball last year and said, you know, it'll just be a year and then you can retire the next year. So they did have a full-time strength coach last year. He didn't travel or do anything like that. I believe he was like, I haven't met him. I believe he was like a little bit older. And so like he didn't travel with the team or do anything like that, but he was a full-time strength coach.
Okay.
With the understanding that this coaching staff also knew, and he knew that at the end of the year, she was going to be able to have someone to come in and do all of the things.
So that
but yes,
first,
you're right. So it could have been, there could be a senior on here that has had 4 different people a different person every single year.
So your first workout, your first training session, what time was it and what time did they show up?
Our first training session was the next morning, was on a Tuesday because we did that Monday night. I told them I was going to our weight room is right off of the practice court, or right around the corner. So I just said, everyone, it started at 7. So I said, everyone, make sure you are ready to go and on the court by 6:50. So we could do warm up together and then we'll split. I'll take half to the weight room, then the other half will do individuals. And then we would flip flop the next hour. And I walked in at 6:30 to come into my office. I could already hear music playing. And I mean, the entire team probably got here by 6:15. And I was like, you guys, when I said be here by 6:50, that means like you should at least like be ball handling at like 6:45. I mean, get a little bit of something in before, like you didn't have to be here at 6 a.m. But they were all here and
they were terrified that a freshman was going to sleep in.
Oh, there was zero doubt. They were like, we were not going to be late. And luckily so far, no one's been late, but I mean, to what you were saying earlier as well, it's the summertime and it started in May. I know it's June now. We don't play till November and I don't need them to be in the best shape until technically January when we start SEC season, and then obviously again in March. So at this point in time, and it's funny because they just look at me like they are scared every single day we go to the track. They're scared every day that we have an on the court conditioning session. And they look at me with these big eyes like, oh my God, what's she going to do? Dear Lord, if I put out cones, it is, I mean, I'm going to crush them. Apparently. I was like, I'm going to stop telling you guys that it is June. And that's not my goal right now. My goal is not to hurt you in June. My goal is not to hurt you ever, but it's going to get harder. But I also need you to understand what concepts I need you to get in June before we do anything like super hard in July or August building up to that. But again, I don't need you to be basketball ready in basketball shape until January.
I think what a lot of people don't understand, and I talked with Jeremy Hefner at Baylor about it. He's like, Mark, day one, I need to make sure that all the ladies are ready to practice and are happy to be there. And that's exactly what my coach expects. She expects them to have energy. She expects them to be healthy, strong, fast, all the stuff that we're responsible for. But at first day of practice, everybody's got to have some energy. So, why am I going to drain them? Why am I going to drain them in June and July when they don't really, like you said, they need to be ready in January when the SEC starts.
Right.
And if I remember correctly, the SEC has a pretty good women's basketball.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee is in there, who's on their way back up, but obviously super powerhouse. South Carolina's in there,
Don't give Molly any credit.
I know. I just talked to Molly yesterday. I was like, I'm really not looking forward to seeing you, but I'm so excited to see you. And also Yolanda, I don't know if you know Yolanda.
Texas A&M.
Yeah, she's over at Texas A&M now. And I was like, girl, you keep following me. She went to Georgia Tech, a few years back. And I was like, I'm just so excited to see like friends and women. But we had a really good group in the ACC of strength coaches. Like Coach Warner up there, he is a stoic of a man, but he's so nice and approachable, even though he also has his RBF as well. But great guy. And Ren up at Pitt is super duper nice. And like, even the new guy, Caleb over at UNC, we went to coffee like, oh God, probably 3 or 4 times before I even left. And I'm like, don't let this be like some rivalry things. That's between the kids and the school. Like, that's not between us. Like, let's talk shop. Let's do these things. And I mean, he was great.
I think one of the things that I see, especially, and I hate to tell you this, but as the younger strength coaches like you, and yep, you're young. Caitlin Cunningham, Reddy, who's now at Clemson, left Wake Forest, and Molly and all of them, and like that group, and Sam Moore at NC State, Leanne Blinn out at Arizona State, Katrin Koch at Georgia. Like, I think a lot of the older, and I'm going to say it, the older guys in our profession, we've done it wrong. I mean, we don't have those relationships, or we don't try and connect with the coaches when we're going to play them and stuff like that. And it's one of the things in the profession that I hope gets better, because as you know, in this profession, it is about who you know, and it is about your network, and it is very important, especially for younger strength coaches. Understand that, like, if you travel with a team, pick up the phone before you get to that school that you're playing and see if you can talk with the strength coach. Take the strength coach out to lunch, get them a cup of coffee, do whatever.
90% of all strength coaches, if you said, do you want to meet for coffee? The answer is yes, because everyone woke up at 4 a.m. and everybody's been going. And yes, by 9 a.m., it's time for a cup of coffee, or the second cup of coffee.
Or even, hey, my team's going to come in. Would it be okay for me to come in and get a workout in?
Right.
And just leave it at that. I mean, I've yet to have a strength coach say no to whether it's working out or a cup of coffee or another great thing. Let's go get something to eat.
Yeah. Yeah, food always works. No, I think it's super important. I have only in one instance, and I didn't email him before anything, but before the game, usually I'll always go over and find somebody and say hi. And I've only had one coach that as I started walking towards him, he turned around and he walked away and like wouldn't talk to me. So for 4 years, he would not talk to me, which is fine. Like, again, these are
Very
school
competitive.
rivalries. Huh?
Very competitive.
Like, these are school rivalries, not us rivalries. But you are absolutely correct. Like, my little networking group of uh, women. I don't mean to exclude the men because I have plenty of guy friends in this profession. But yeah, between Caitlin and Jenna, and when Caitlin and Jenna and Yo, when Coach P left and Kara was getting hired, I mean, they were some of the first people to reach out to me. Are you okay? What can we do? It was phenomenal. And then, obviously through the NCAA stuff with basketball and the tournament that was happening this year, I mean, everybody, we were just, constantly on the phone. Everyone keep resharing, everyone keep retweeting, everyone be on your platforms doing all these things. And like things happened. And it wouldn't happen if none of us had relationships with each other.
What happened at the women's basketball tournament?
Yeah, I don't know. Nothing happened. It wasn't significant at all.
Oh, Jesus. I
mean, and even, yeah, like actually the not funny part, and this is a side comment, but Allie, so when I was an intern at Duke, Allie was my person. I was working with women's soccer and Allie was a goalkeeper. And so Allie was my person, our person, because my girlfriend, Anna, who was there, we always tag team the goalkeepers. And so when Allie was at Kansas, we just stayed connected. When Caitlin started doing her podcast, and she was like, send me people to be on the podcast. Because Caitlin does the really cool one of females in strength and conditioning.
Yep.
And I'm like, you need to talk to Allie. Allie was at Kansas, under Hootie for like 5 years. And she just took the job at Stanford. Like, she's going to be a huge deal. And then, all this stuff happened with the NCAA tournament. And then now Allie's, out, but still working in, coaching and the art of coaching, which is great. But it's just funny to see it go full circle. And just, yes, networking is just important. Mark networks all the time with the same 5 emojis that he sends. If he thinks something is funny or it's a good lift or it's like inspirational and he agrees, he's going to put it out there. But and here we are now doing podcasts together. And, we were in a, what do we call those, breakaway room, like 2 weeks ago.
That's the first thing you said to me.
Yeah. But like, I've made more friends on social media in this, in our platform in strength and conditioning. And then when I get to see them in person, it's like, oh, it's my friend.
Exactly.
And it's phenomenal. There was 2 guys that were down at UNC Wilmington, Ben Fleming and Kyle Gilbert. And we met because of Sore Necks, or because of Squatober.
Yep.
We just started following each other because we're like, oh, we live right down the road. We're all squatting. We're all doing this. Man, those 2, I still talk to those 2. Phenomenal people. But I'm like, oh, we met because we were cheering each other on and started reposting each other on, on social media.
Because AA was trying to kill everybody in Squatober.
Yeah.
Or December.
I always bow out of December. Like, I'm like 15 days and I'm like, my back's fine. We're like, we're getting ready to, go through this. I don't know, getting ready to go into conference. So I'll be good. I'll get out.
Mark sent all those emojis to me too. He's like, hey, Chris, good podcast, 100%, star, swoosh, unicorns.
There are no unicorns. It's smiley face, prayer hands, a muscle, a heart, and 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I got 5 things. That's all I got.
I think he just keeps it on the shortcut or like the copy paste. So all he has to do is just like send it.
I'm thinking there's all this effort involved because there's so many.
I don't know how to do that cut and paste thing. So yeah, I do have to hit it every time.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Okay, so at Duke, was Katie Ely there? Goalkeeper coach?
No.
Okay, so she's one of my former players. She's now at Georgia. So I think her and Allie know each other. So
it was, oh my gosh, I can't remember his name, but he had red hair.
and he wasn't a she. Katie's very much
not a she.
Katie's very much a young lady. All right, I know Chris has got some questions, but before that happens, how do you think the profession needs to improve? And an ideal situation in a sports performance model, what's the relationship between the strength and conditioning coach and the athletic trainer? And then, let's go with those two first. So what do you see the evolution of the strength and conditioning sports performance profession? Where would you like to see it go? And then if you were the athletic director at a university, what would be the ideal model as far as a sports performance strength and conditioning department?
I think where I would like to see sports performance going, I do like the fact that it's becoming more specialized, because I don't think everyone should be a power lifter. So I like seeing that kind of trajectory as to where it's going. But in saying all that, we need to, and this is my personal opinion, but I've said it before, it's just drop the ego. Like, you are not inventing something that nobody's ever done before. We are all kind of taking something, and yes, we may make it our own in some minute way, but we're not inventing anything new. So if somebody reaches out to you and is asking for help, help them. It's only going to make our profession better. It's only going to make our profession more legitimate, because still a lot of times administration is old. And I mean, you know what I mean? They were the assistant sports coach and the strength and conditioning coach while also being the assistant AD. You know what I mean? And so those times have changed. And so in their minds, we're just weight room people. And they don't understand. No. I spend more time with these student athletes than the coaching staff does. I'm not saying coaches don't coach or put in hours. I'm saying I have 80-hour work weeks where I'm here every day. And between the months of October to April, there are 0 days off. Not a single one. So understand, I am with these athletes all the time. And again, if you can just pick up the phone and call somebody because, like, okay, I need help with X, Y, or Z. I did that, after one conference, I did that with Corey. I'm going to still mess up his last name, but Schlesinger. And I called him and I'm like, I have to come up with this, this, and this. And I'm just so over it right now. And I just need help. And he said, call me in 10 minutes. I'll be in LA traffic and I'll have plenty of time. And my God, we talked for 45 minutes. And I need people to be like that. I need people to be like, hey, Ashleigh, do you want to do this podcast? Yeah, sure. How can we make it work? Yeah, I mean, it's not that I am nobody. I am here to make these student athletes be better and more physically prepared to play their sports. I will never make anybody a better basketball player. You do not want me to make someone a better basketball player, because it will not happen. You should see me shoot. It's just not a thing. But in that same sense, like, I think we all have something to learn. I don't do things the same way you do things. And so why not sit down and talk about it? Why not let me watch you do something or ask you questions about your program, or you send me whatever? I think those things are fine. And then, sorry about my whole little tangent. And then obviously then the number 2 is I would love for more women to be in strength and conditioning and be visible and be seen. And here's the thing, stop hiring women to only work with female sports, because for some reason it is okay for one man to work with 14 teams and 9 of them are women. But dear God, if a woman in shorts or yoga pants works with a male team, she can't handle it and she doesn't know what she's talking about, and well, she's probably just a distraction. Like, stop it. It is 2021. Stop it.
So I think right now, the one female that's a director and oversees football is Corliss.
Yes.
Down in Florida.
Down in Florida. And I would remind you of the name, but it's a really long name and it starts with a B. But yes, Corliss is the director and she is over football.
At Bethune-Cookman.
I'm sorry?
At Bethune-Cookman, I believe.
Yes.
And then I believe out at Stanford, Sam, and I don't know Sam's last name, is an assistant with the football program as well.
That part, I'm not sure on that one. You're probably right.
No, I just, and I'm going to echo your sentiments. I think everybody needs to understand whoever can do the job the best should be hired. Like, regardless of gender, race, sexual orientation, whatever. I mean, hire the best qualified person to get the job done. You know, and I agree with you. I think more women need to be in these leadership positions, and not at the detriment of the males, but at the same time, they need to be given the opportunity to run the show, you know, and
Absolutely.
prove that they can do it.
I am 100% behind promoting females, getting equality for, same equal pay, doing all the same work. But I still 100%, one, this isn't a male bashing thing. And I don't by any means hate men or think that any type of way. I still love men. And I'm not offended by them. I just want to be recognized that I do the same job. I do the same amount of work that they're doing. So stop acting like I am this secondhand person. And that's all I'm saying.
Rise to the top, and you got to remove the barriers that are allowing that to happen.
Yes, exactly. But at the same time, so I want women to hear this specifically from me as a female. Yes, I need everyone to fight for us to have more visibility. And that's not just in strength and conditioning. I mean, even female sports, they're only getting about 4% of the coverage, and I could be making that specific stat up, but you understand what I'm saying. The more visibility that we have, the more inclined that the younger generations are going to be inspired to want to do these things, to get into sports in general, to get into strength and conditioning, to get into admin, anything that has to do with athletics. And we can't keep sitting here preaching, hey, it's okay to be strong and be feminine and then do nothing about it. So I want to sit here and say, yes, be upset, and yes, fight for women, but also at the same time, it doesn't have to be like this super angry thing and like we hate men promotion.
But at the same time, it also doesn't need to be cutthroat either.
Correct. No, you can do it. Find ways to make a difference.
Because there have been instances very recently where some people have kind of taken it upon themselves to get a position in sports performance at the detriment of the person that was already there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. If you have the opportunity to make all of the money in the world and you can get a job in the NBA on the men's side, and you're, on the women's side in the WNBA, I mean, anywhere, at any organization, at any level. I mean, let's try not to cut out like women that are already in these positions when all we're trying to do is get more women in these positions.
Well, but here's the other thing. You can't have it both ways. You can't say I'm trying to empower women in this profession and then at the next point cut one of them out. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree.
All right, yeah, we can stop there. Chris has probably got some questions for you. And Chris, if I'm speaking too much, just tell me to shut up.
No, never.
Women, a female high school basketball.
Anyways,
what's up?
I said I would never do that because it wouldn't stop you anyways.
As a female high school basketball player coming into the University of Alabama, what are you looking at? What would be your ideal situation for an incoming freshman?
Oh my gosh, my ideal situation is they are 6'4" and 180 to 200 pounds of solid stock, pretty good muscle on there. But that's not really typically the case. But what I would say, if you're a parent who's listening and you want your child to play at the next level, I feel like there's a few things that have yes to do with strength and conditioning, but also not. Start your kids when they're in high school to the best of your ability on some sort of sleep hygiene or sleep regimen, and go ahead and get them used to getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, because that is where most recovery happens, regardless of what Normatec, massage, acupuncture, anything, Theragun that you can give them. Sleep is going to be the most important. That's just how we recover, how we heal. We can't, to go even further, as all of the cognitive functions that decrease when we don't get enough sleep, which are very important for those minute details on swinging a bat and hand-eye coordination and shooting a free throw. If we have all the research. So start while they're in high school, while they're in middle school, trying to get them on that sleep regimen. And you don't have to do anything crazy. It doesn't have to be a 2-hour bath time, whatever, but teach them how to get that amount of sleep. The other thing I would say is to, yes, go ahead and start them on at least understanding that their body, that they need to eat to get fuel. And I understand you have lots of kids, or some people have lots of kids, and it's really, really busy and you have to run from here to there. And yes, there are going to be days that you go to McDonald's, and yes, like those kind of things just happen. But we will see the most injury from student athletes who do not know how to eat, and then come here, and when we're asking them to eat a healthy option, either A, won't, or B, will only eat their one meal a day because that's what they're used to, and then their body's just breaking down because now it's more intense. Now you're not just having school all day long. Now you're having school like maybe 1 to 2 hours a day, unless you have lab. And then we're asking you to do weightlifting. We're asking you to go and see the athletic trainer, and we're asking you to have a 4-hour practice. Oh, and then on top of that, you need to do time management skills about your homework and this, and this. And so if those are little things that you can do that, like, hey, yes, you need to eat breakfast. Here, I'm packing you this lunch, or you're getting lunch at the school. Here's a snack for when you get done with school, but you're getting ready to go to practice, and then making sure they're eating when they get home. But that also kind of changes the dynamics of when they get to us and food is readily available at all times. They're not just eating every and anything because it's available. But I also know that that's not the case at every institution. Some places you're fending for, I mean, where I went to school, like there was a Subway on campus, and I had to pay for that myself if that's what I wanted. You know what I mean? So like, I get it. That's not always the case. But even in those instances, like, okay, let's talk about it. How are we going to get you food while you're in school? How are we going to better prepare you for this situation? So that way you don't just like dump them. And then again, yes, then 5 for 5 at McDonald's looks like the best meal every single day. And then that's terrible.
I think that's a real interesting perspective, because that's kind of along the line of questioning I was going to ask you. Specifically, what should a 7th, 8th grade, high school age female basketball player be doing? But what you said, I think, applies to any athlete. And typically, I'd be looking for the answer to be some kind of. I guess I was going to ask, what should they be doing besides skill work and competition? Thinking it was going to be some kind of weight training program, but you went the opposite direction, which makes a lot of sense, and probably under a lot more control of the parents than a system of strength and conditioning is teaching them how to sleep correctly and proper nutrition. So that being said, are there any more?
Yeah. So the reason that I kind of steer clear of that answer is because there are some people who are very fortunate and can hire these personal trainers, and then these kids are out here doing, hang clean and jerks at 135 pounds, when really, not to say that basketball players can't do that. You definitely can with the proper training. They should only be doing 65 pounds, as their training age is only 2 months in a gym. Because let's be real, most female athletes before they get to college don't spend a ton of time in the gym prior to being there, unless their high school has a program. That is not the place that I want them to go. I don't want them to go and like immediately find somebody that's having them balance on a stability ball with a BOSU ball over their head while they're dribbling with their other hand. Like, Instagram things look really cool sometimes, but they're not always the best thing for us. If you can be proficient at doing push-ups and doing body weight squats where your butt is getting below your knees and your knees aren't caving in, those are important for me. Those are the 2 things I would want you to do before you got to me. If you can do a pull-up before you get to me, we are off and running. But understand, like, from a female perspective, and especially in basketball, these kids are so specialized, so young, that most of them are doing basketball, and right from high school basketball into travel basketball, and then AAU in the summer. they've never even been inside the gym. So it is a +1 and a +2. If a kid can come to me and do a push-up and not like, these are my favorite push-ups. I'm going to do it from the side. Those are my favorite. I got a lot of those. You can actually do a push-up and do a squat that they, are working on, that kind of can work on that range of motion, which I know means nothing to them, but means a lot to me. Just like a body weight squat that you can get below parallel is like, we're at a +1 already.
Are you seeing, in particularly in female basketball players, do you see certain injuries that keep popping up?
Yeah, I mean, ACL injuries are always number one in women's basketball, and there's two basic mechanisms that happen. One is the collision, which is going to happen in every single sport, male or female. And the collision ones, you just kind of, you can't do anything about. That's literally nothing. In basketball, where we see most of the mechanism when it's non-contact, is somehow this athlete has gotten to an overreach position where their knee is used typically really far in front of their toe. And it's not just that overreach, it's an overreach into a pivot. So then they've somehow turned just the slightest bit and then it automatically goes. It can be a slight, even hyperextension, but then they're trying to turn. Just because, if you watch the basketball game, you can see it all the time. There's a ton of pivoting, a ton of change of direction. So that overreach and then pivot and then it goes is the other main mechanism that we see it happening. A lot of times, when they're trying to, I don't mean to laugh. When someone who is does not typically do a Euro step, tries to do a Euro step and then kind of step, get that little bit of hyperextension and or lean a little too far forward and then try to get that little tiny bit of lateral movement back to the front, and then it just goes. It's the weirdest thing, but that's...
Are women more susceptible to that because of the different bone structure?
Yes. I'm not going to say because of the different bone structure, only because the new research that is coming out is saying it's not because of the Q angle. I'm not sure exactly what the mechanism is, except for to say, I don't think that women are just structurally, we carry most of the weight in our body, whereas men do not. And that's because we were built to have babies and carry them and pick them up. And that's where we keep most of our fat and most of our muscle. That's why we're typically takes us a little longer to get upper body strength. So that being said, I think it's just in general that's where we carry our weight, and then we're asking our body to change in these quick directions, and it's just not able to handle that. But also it's not able to handle that when we have underdeveloped glutes and we don't know how to use our hamstrings for deceleration at all. And everything we know is acceleration. So we gotta work on strength.
All gas, no brakes.
Yes.
What can that 7th, 8th grader, high schooler do to start to help to prevent that injury?
And do lower body. Even so much as you can get those mini bands and work on just any kind of lateral adduction movement. If you want to talk about being in the gym or going to the fitness center, we like to, I don't know, the good girl, bad girl machine. It's really the adduction machine. Okay. As silly as those are, they do serve a purpose. But when you're on the court and you're doing any kind of basketball training and you're warming up, go ahead and do those short lateral movements side to side. Go ahead and work on staying in that seated low position. Get in a wall sit for a minute and then immediately go into those lateral direction and get your glutes to turn on before you're starting, a high defensive day or a 3-on-3 tournament where all it is you changing directions.
I'd also say for a 7th and 8th grader, play more than one sport.
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry.
You don't have to specialize. If you're in middle school, be playing 3 different sports. Volleyball is great. It even obviously correlates with basketball. They're not the same, but you're learning how to jump, you're learning how to move, and you're definitely learning how to change directions. Plenty of sports. Play a field sport. Get out there. It's different changes of directions, and then your body is already used to learning how to move and change your center of gravity. It's allowing you to grow into your body and letting your body feel like how that feels. If you only did one thing in one direction your entire time, that's all you're going to be able to do. And then you're uncomfortable when you get outside of that range. And so if you put yourself in different positions and say, I'm playing field hockey and I'm playing basketball, well, by God, my body knows that these are two different sports, but it's so used to every change of direction or whatever, in your needs analysis of the two sports, that I'm able to handle that load now. My body knows I'm able to handle it because I've been put in that situation.
And also when they get to you at the university level, they're going to be fresher because at the higher levels, you don't play multiple sports.
Correct.
I mean, I'm just talking from a mental, holistic well-being. They're going to be better prepared to just focus on the one activity that they're doing. So.
Yes. But I mean, again, to your point, their body's also been able to handle different loads now if they're playing multiple sports. And so then coming to a university setting where it is a lot more intense, the training load is greater, their bodies are able to handle that more than a person who's only done one thing for the entire time. If I only do push-ups over and over and over and over and over, then I that's not going to make me better at squatting. Yes, it's going to don't get me wrong, playing basketball is going to make you a better basketball player. But you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right. Here's how we're going to end it. Where's Ashleigh going to be in 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years?
Whew. Ashleigh is hopefully going to still be at the University of Alabama in the next 2 years.
I like that you reference yourself in the third party, by the way.
You're welcome.
Ashleigh's going to be at Alabama in 2 years, so okay.
Yes, I do like to kind of, I mean, I like to see classes start and finish. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you a better amount of time to see if your programming is working, to see if you really are making a difference. Like, yes, I can say in my first year at Duke, we took injuries and missed practices from 120 missed practices the year before I got there to 70 by the second year that I was there. Hey, that's great, pat on the shoulder. It wasn't just me, it was athletic medicine and our PT as well. But that's in 4 years, I can see that, hey, wow, we used to have 2 catastrophic injuries over the course of a season, and now we're having 1 to none. I mean, those things are important just in that longevity and building relationships with your student athletes and your coaches. That's super important. Sorry, tangent, done. I think after this, I'm not going to put a year anything on it. I would say after this, I love college and collegiate athletics. And I think if it stays in a positive, manner, then I would love to be a director somewhere and in charge of a program. Or, or on the men's side. Now there's no women on the men's side. And again, I think that that's very important, but I would love to be the director of my own department, or be one of the first females over on the men's side, and just kind of getting that out there and doing whatnot.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention them, but Heather Mason and Claire Quevedo up at Ohio State.
Yes.
I'd be remiss if I did not mention them as 2 of the leaders as far as women in our profession. So
absolutely. Heather was one of the first females I ever heard speak at any kind of event. And I'm like, she's awesome. She's kind of cool.
And terrifying all at the same time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then, so ultimate goal, director.
I don't know what the ultimate goal is. I can't put a cap on it because I don't know.
Okay. Love it.
But yes, next step would be, director and head of a department for sure.
Cool.
Awesome.
Chris, you got anything?
No, Coach, I want to thank you for coming on today. It's been real insightful.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
No, Ashleigh, it was a pleasure, and it's been great getting to know you. And I'll still keep hitting you up with the emojis.
Yeah, so. Please do.
All right, Mark, you're going to be real proud of me today. I've got a list of all the places we're on instead of butchering it and just mentioning 2.
Attaboy.
Anchor, Breaker, Castbox, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify. We've got a YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook. And if you want to be on the show, send us an email at info@athletehackers.com. I'm Chris Schrade.
And I am Mark Spellman. And once again, Ashley, thank you very much for joining us. Everybody, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen to us. All my best. God bless. And always, peace.
Peace.